This is QTV Nightly News coming to you from our studios on Caraba Avenue. I am Umudu Gajaga and thank you for joining us. First, here are the main news headlines. As the death toll from injuries, particularly from road accidents, rise, the Gambia today launched its National Trauma and Injury Plan. The Directorate of State-Owned Enterprises, SOEs, at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs has signed a performance agreement contract with 4 more SOEs after 3 such agreements were signed earlier this year. As it continues its support to education in the country, the Q Group Foundation today donated laboratory equipment to Muslim Senior Secondary School. We hear about plans to rehabilitate Kunta Kinte Island, which is a UNESCO heritage site. A World Bank study finds the Gambia is not making the best use of possibilities offered by the River Gambia. Those were the news headlines, and now the news in detail. Welcome and thank you for joining us. This is QTV News. The Ministry of Health, with support from partners, launched the National Trauma and Injury Plan on Tuesday at the Sir Dawda Kairaba International Conference Center in Bijolo. The plan was prepared by the ministry and its stakeholders. Loli M. Camara tells us more.
The document, which is now launched, when implemented, is expected to reduce deaths and disabilities resulting from injury. Dr. Fatoumata Diba, in her welcome remarks, thanked all stakeholders who, in one way or the other, contributed to making the document a success. She assured stakeholders that the document will serve its intended purpose. Keba S. Bojang, the Program Manager, National Cancer Control Program, under the Ministry of Health, said the National Trauma and Injury Plan represents coordinated efforts to create a network of health facilities strategically linked to optimize care of the injured and reduce mortality and morbidity in the country.
Extensive process of stakeholder consultation, which would have been impossible without the support, the technical input, the comment, and the dedication of various experts from both the public and the private sector, technical working groups, shareholders, and individuals.
Dr. Keba S. Marina, an orthopedic surgeon at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital and one of the architects of the plan, gave the latest statistics of road traffic accidents.
At Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, over a year period in November 2020 to 2021, we collected data daily, and that showed over 100 serious injuries requiring admission a month, and an average of 17 deaths per month. This also happened to coincide with the period of COVID, and there were more deaths from injuries than there were from COVID during the same period.
Dr. Desta Turini, the WHO country rep, reveals that his organization supports member states all over the world to deal with trauma and injury in various ways. Among them is providing guidance to countries to develop their own instrument. He added that planning and access to trauma care system, including communication, transport to hospital, pre-hospital and hospital care, are an important strategies to minimize fatalities and disabilities from injury environments. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmadulamin Samate, said there has been a remarkable increase from 2017 and 2021 in the number of road traffic accidents in the Gambia. He said the best, easiest way certainly to manage trauma and injury would be to prevent them.
The ministry did not just stop at coming up with a plan to take care of the injured, but we very proudly, for the first time in the history of this country, have dedicated a program for prevention and management of trauma. I think this is phenomenal and remarkable, and they are going to be the team implementing the trauma plan.
Officials say the implementation of the plan will be in January 2024, and as per the plan, the health facilities in the country will be divided into different levels of service delivery for trauma, and each level will be equipped accordingly. Research shows that road traffic crashes are predicted to be the 5th leading cause of death by the year 2030. In the Gambia, it is one of the leading causes of death. So, With the launching of the plan, it is hoped that injury-related mortality will be reduced in the country. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
The Directorate of State-Owned Enterprises, SOEs, at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, Tuesday signed performance agreement contract with 4 SOEs, namely GAMPOST, GGC, GIA and GPPC. The agreement is part of a series of government reforms aimed at enhancing SOE performances and effective oversight. More in this report by Antoine Sonyasi.
The signing ceremony between government and GAMPOST, GGC, GIA and GPPC is a follow-up to 3 such agreements between government and state-owned enterprises, namely Social Security, GPA and GNPC, assented to by the President in February this year. It gives government effective oversight over SOEs for enhanced service delivery and improved economic performance. It comes following Finance Minister Sidi Keita's disclosure following Morpheus Delivery Forum's meeting with President Barrow in September this year of a debility in the performance of SOEs, leading to a noticeable decline in their value. This agreement seeks to address their current predicament to strengthen their performance. Presiding over the signing ceremony by Madi Sise, Director of the Directorate of SOEs at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, and Babukar Boy, Minister for Public Service, Administrative Reforms, Policy Coordination and Delivery, highlight how these agreements will impact SOE performances, adding that it is in line with government's SOE reform agenda.
If you look at in the area of financial performances, over the past few years, let's say over the past 15, 20 years, SOEs have posed a big challenge to government. Challenge in the sense that most SOEs have been continuously relying on government bailouts over the past 15 years.
If it were not for the, performance contracting, maybe those things would have been going on. Government spending money on the SOEs without actually realizing how much, those SOEs are contributing to GDP.
The Gambia's first phase performance contracts were on a trial basis between January to June 1987. However, officials say the Jammeh administration had disintegrated the already established operations, which has since affected SOE performances, prompting the need for this change. Hussein Ngom, chairman of the SOE Commission, says the new performance contracts will provide a good strategic framework for accountability and calls on partners in the economic sector to help government realize its reform objectives by ensuring the effective implementation of these agreements.
The size of our economy is $156 billion. And the SOE investment by government, excluding subsidies and bailouts, is $34 billion. That is 20% of our GDP being invested in state-owned enterprises. Within state enterprises, there is an inherent risk being carried through debt. And that debt represents another significant part of our national debt portfolio, which is being carried by state-owned enterprises.
Mamadou Sise, the representative of the Director General of SOEs, and Falalo M. Ture, chairperson of GGC Board of Directors, says some of the problems facing the public enterprises over the past years has had a negative impact on public finances and economic growth. As part of reforms to improve SOE performances, government established a dedicated SOE unit at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs to provide meaningful and effective oversight for the state enterprises. The strategic reforms needed to strengthen the fiscal, operational and governance activities, which led to the creation and signing of these agreements. Additionally, it would be recalled that the SOE Act was also enacted on the 25th of April this year, leading to the establishment of the State-Owned Enterprise Regulatory Commission. Answana Sonyasi for QTV News.
In a show of continuing support to Gambia's education sector, the Q Group Foundation has donated laboratory equipment to Muslim Senior Secondary School. At the handing over ceremony, the executive director of the Q Group Foundation pledged more support to the school and made a commitment to promoting education in the STEM areas. Umudulamin Choi has the rest of the story.
This is Muslim Senior Secondary School, which recently relocated to Brusubi. The school's principal, his staff and some students are receiving a valuable donation from the Q Group Foundation, a resourceful partner to the Gambia's education sector. This donation is a swift response to a request from the school to the Q Group Foundation for support to address constraints in its science department. Asadeja is the executive director of the Q Group Foundation.
Today, we are presenting laboratory equipment worth over around $170,000 to the school in the name of the alumni of Muslim working for the Q Group. We hope that it will assist the school enhance its learning environment and ultimately help the students gain more knowledge and have practical experience in STEM areas. We also would like to pledge to buy 10 computers for your IT lab to enable you to expand your laboratory work.
The supply of scientific laboratory equipment will come in handy for the school as it allows the students hands-on practical experience of scientific theories, facts and experiments they learn from books and their teachers. Adegunju T. Adijui, the head of the school's science department, and one of his students, Alajiba, are pleased with the donation and grateful to the Q Group Foundation.
But because of the increase in the number of students that are offering sciences now in this place, we needed more materials to enable us teach the students effectively in sciences, and also to allow us explain some concepts that can only be explained by experiment. On that note, I want to say thank you very much.
Seydou Jallo, his vice principal, Ami Kasim Toure, and Wakambai, a representative of the school's alumni, speak highly of the Q Group and associate its continued support to the school as a manifestation of its Sunyibus concept in the spirit of national development. They praise the school's long-standing partnership with the Q Group and look forward to more support.
Because you have manifested that we own the Q Group. It is ours. This is why all the time you plow back to the communities, by helping them to also, pick up from where they are.
Founded in 1975, Muslim Senior Secondary School has been instrumental in preparing several generations, many of whom currently hold key positions in government and the private sector. The school is the alma mater of President Adama Barrow, the chairman of the Q Group, the executive director of the Q Group Foundation, and other distinguished Gambians. As the philanthropic arm of the Q Group of companies, the foundation's goal is to tackle socio-economic challenges and promote positive change by serving as fundamental support system for community development and Gambia's education and healthcare sectors. Mahmoud Lamin, QTV News.
We will now go for a commercial break, and when we return, we still have some more news stories. Do stay tuned.
For all your electronic cooking utensil needs, worry no more. Deka Killer Jongoma Kitchen is the solution. Deka Killer brings modern, efficient and affordable cooking materials such as gas cookers, heaters, coffee machines, fridges, ceiling and stand fans, among other valuable home and restaurant materials. Located at Serekunda Bambo opposite Sanchapa Garas, Deka Killer is making fun life easier by offering you guaranteed and cost-effective electronic cooking materials. You can contact us on 348-2307 or 728-5372. We are also on Facebook, Deka Killer The Gambia. Email dekakillergambia@gmail.com. Deka Killer Jongoma Kitchen is the solution for all your home appliances and electronic cooking utensil needs. Roast now, Deka Killer making fun life easier. Deka Killer everything for cooking. Deka Killer is the right place to be.
The art of juggling is a true spectacle of agility, coordination, and speed. A symbol of progression, precision, and mastery. .5G speed is like having the juggler in your pocket. With lightning-fast download and upload speeds, you'll easily be able to juggle even the busiest workdays. Whether you're a busy entrepreneur a creative, or just someone who wants to stay connected? Juggle your tasks with ease with QCell 5G speed. The future is here. It's fast, reliable, and efficient. First brought to you by QCell. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back and thank you very much for joining us. This is QTV News. As part of two-day stakeholder engagement recently held in Jufure in the North Bank region, project officials visited Kunta Kinte Island, formerly called James Island, ahead of feasibility studies and rehabilitation to be conducted soon. Loli M. Camara tells us more.
Kunta Kinte Island is an island in the Gambia River, 30 kilometers from the river mouth and near Jufure in the Gambia's North Bank region. As an important historical site in the West African slave trade, it is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The island has suffered serious erosion, and now only the ruins of several of the British administrative buildings, including a single cell, apparently used to house the most troublesome captives, a small jetty, and a number of skeletal baobab trees remain. We engaged the environmental risk management specialist for the tourism diversification and resilience in the Gambia project, Fode Fati, about the island.
Coastal infrastructure protection, that's what the project is going to do. And then this infrastructure work is going to be done here and also along Fajara to Senegambia. So the one which is going to be happen here is going to be a preservation method for the island to ensure that the island stays as it is and then from further damage. This is what we want to do here.
Mr. Fati reveals that to work on the rehabilitation of the island, a lot of expertise is needed.
So the feasibility is to look into the whole intervention area in terms of their social environment and including anything to see how feasible the work is going to be done. The feasibility study will help us to know in terms of the option for the intervention. And also it will also help us in terms of cost, in terms of all anything we think we should take care of before we start the work. The feasibility study is going to help us with that. And then currently, the project went far in even identifying a farm to work on the feasibility studies.
As national monuments, the historic structures are under the custodianship of the National Center for Arts and Culture, NCAC, who are responsible for their conservation and upkeep. Patrick K. Gomez of the NCAC and supervisor of Jufure Youth Destination spoke about the need for restoration of the island.
When it is restored, maybe the beach will expand a little bit so that there will be a little added value onto the island. Because if like the beach, if it is restored, some of the vegetation may recover.
Here is Mr. Gomez again, highlighting some of the challenges they face.
They fear losing the island, like having an asset like this, and then you lose it without protecting it or through negligence and so on like that. That is one of their challenge.
We spoke to Babukar Sise, a native of Jufure, about this development.
We realize that diversification of tourism is one of the elements that we need in the Gambia here when we want to sustain tourism and also to promote tourism so that we can be able to have more tourists coming to the nation. Trying to bring this project to develop James Island in such a way, the Kunta Kinte Island, we believe that is a milestone.
As tourism continues to play a significant role in the country's economy by contributing 20% of our GDP and enhancing its image, residents of these villages believe that with the intervention of this project, the island will not only be restored and rehabilitated, but bring back jobs and prosperity to the area. For QTV News, Loli M. Kamara.
A World Bank infrastructure assessment study for the Gambia's transport sector shows that although River Gambia is navigable for small vessels along most of its length, it lacks of adequate landing and loading facility, and lack of any aid to navigation makes it more an impediment to connectivity than an asset. Jilden Jai has the rest of the story.
The River Gambia is a major river in West Africa, running 1,120 kilometers from the Fouta Djallon Plateau in North Guinea eastward through Senegal and the Gambia to the Atlantic Ocean at the city of Banjul. It is navigable for about half that length. This World Bank study presents a diagnostic assessment of the transport and infrastructure sectors of the Gambia to assist the government in strategic planning, identifying significant investment gaps and opportunities to enhance resource allocation and private financing, and identify policy gaps and weaknesses in the institutional and regulatory frameworks within the sector. The study also offers evidence-based recommendations for the sector. Although many towns are along the River Gambia, the river is not currently used to provide connectivity between them or between them and the port of Banjul. The study also indicates that the river transport services are poorly integrated. There is only minimum coordination between the National Food Security Processing and Marketing Corporation and the other barge operators over the use of barge fleets and freight terminals. This is a missed opportunity as almost all of the country's exports leave via the Banjul port. The result is that many barges operate loaded in one direction and empty in other, when better coordination could result in most of them operating loaded in both directions, thereby reducing operating costs per ton km and giving the chance to cut tariffs by 30% or more. The study also reveals that the facilities for loading and unloading barges are underdeveloped. The National Development Plan 2018 envisioned the use of the River Gambia to boost connectivity and increase trade competitiveness and proposed a 30% river share freight transport by 2027. Projects that could contribute to this include the establishment of a dry port in Basse, rehabilitation of Kauru and Basse and other jetties, and the creation of a multimodal hub at Farafenye, taking advantage of the significant intersection of north-south trade between Gambia and Senegal and the potential east-west trade from Banjul port as a potential hub for trade along the River Gambia. A recent report identified the attraction of some of the high volumes of transit trade through Banjul port as a potential for trade along the River Gambia. For QTV News, I am Julde Njai.
The World Bank Infrastructure Assessment Study for the Gambia's transport sector finds significant gaps in the areas of connectivity, governance and funding in the transportation sector. Julian Jai has that details again.
The World Bank study presents a diagnostic assessment of the transport and infrastructural sectors of the Gambia to assist the government in strategic planning, identify significant investment gaps and opportunities to enhance resource allocation and private financing, and to identify policy gaps and weaknesses in the institutional and regulatory frameworks within the sector. The study also offers evidence-based recommendations for the sector. Here is Franz Dries-Gross, the World Bank Infrastructure Regional Director for West and Central Africa.
Let me just unpack those four. Obviously, connectivity is the lifeline of any infrastructure system. It enables the efficient movement of people, goods, and services, and will explore ways to enhance that connectivity in the Gambia, both between regions and within regions, to foster economic growth and social inclusion. The second aspect to look at is governance. Governance is absolutely crucial. Effective governance ensures transparency, accountability, and the participation of all stakeholders. We'll delve into the importance of good governance practices and discuss strategies to strengthen governance mechanism in the infrastructure sector. To make it in short, the better the government, the better the governance of the sector, the more willing Gambian taxpayers and road users will be to pay for better services.
Ibrahima Silla, the Minister of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, says even though transport and infrastructure are critical economic and social cohesion enablers for any society, in most African countries it also falls below standards, particularly in terms of access and quality.
The government is fully committed to building road, river, port and air transport infrastructures as expeditiously as possible. To do this, my ministry, the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, will adopt and implement a multimodal approach to the transport sector in order to create the right balance between the river, port, air and rail transports.
The report also reveals that the Banjul port has adequate capacity and efficiency of operations for the immediate future, but lacks both infrastructure and superstructure for efficient operations. The report also highlights that the country has a higher than average transport share of its greenhouse gas emissions. This is in large part through weak and low implementation of regulations regarding fuel quality, vehicle standards, and driver and vehicle testing. In governance, the report shows that Gambia has a low global ranking on benchmark measures of governance performance, but performs at about average of its regional neighbors. The Gambia has a viable policy in public-private partnerships and has created a central unit to coordinate their selection, design and implementation, but has yet to enact an enabling legislation. Maintenance of the road network through funding from the resources generated by a levy on the price of transport fuels has been successful for the primary interurban main routes, but not for secondary routes. And funding for the maintenance of rural and open roads has been even less forthcoming. The report also made various recommendations to improve the Gambia's transport sector. For QTV News, I am Julde Njai.
Now, before we end this news bulletin, here is a recap of our main news headlines. As the death toll from injuries, particularly from road accidents, rise, the Gambia today launched its National Trauma and Injury Plan. The Directorate of State-Owned Enterprises, SOEs, at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs has signed performance agreement contract with 4 more SOEs after 3 such agreements were signed earlier this year. As it continues its support to education in the Gambia, the Q Group Foundation today donated laboratory equipment to Muslim Senior Secondary School. We heard about plans to rehabilitate Kunta Kinte Island, which is a UNESCO heritage site. A World Bank study finds the Gambia is not making the best use of the possibilities offered by the River Gambia. That's all in this edition of the news. Thank you very much for watching. Join us again at 10 for another bulletin.